Welcome back to World Crisis Radio. We're trying to push ahead rapidly because of the wealth of material today. Operation Mermaid Dawn, Operation Siren. We're told that, the U.S. decided to go into Libya because the Gaddafi forces were at the gates of Tripoli. The gates of Benghazi. The gates of Benghazi. Well, unfortunately, the British-French attack was stipulated in a treaty signed November 2nd, 2010, Operation South Mistral, a military adventure by the old Suez imperialist colonialist coalition of NATO. The Colonel Blimps and the French colonialists joining together, the guys who had gotten kicked out of Vietnam and were about to be kicked out of Algeria. The unreconstructed guys, not the de Gaulle, the enemies of de Gaulle, the Vichyssois, not de Gaulle. So one of the big things about this is the first films of the Al-Qaeda rebels arriving in Green Square were shown on Al Jazeera, and it's a fake. It is a complete fake. Take a look at this. It's on the internet. Look at my Twitter feed. You'll find a link to it. I've been in Green Square. Green Square is old. Green Square. Some of those buildings go back to the late Roman Empire. We're talking 400 to 500 A.D. And they have gotten nicked along the way. And there are architectural features on there which the Emir of Doha in Qatar, he obviously didn't get the right firm to do this for him. They made what amounts to a Hollywood set, a soundstage. And they've got the entire thing faked, except that it looks too freshly baked. It looks like freshly baked gingerbread. It's clean. It's neat. Some of the structural features are wrong. They're small mistakes, but you can see them. And above all, there are some embellishments and ornaments and decorations on the walls that they decided not to reproduce. It's a dead giveaway. It is a Hollywood set. So they got a bunch of maybe unemployed actors from Beirut or someplace like this to get dressed up to try to sound like Libyans, shoot off some Kalashnikovs. This was done. So Al Jazeera is exposed before the eyes of the world as an absolute kitchen of lies. How can anybody believe these people? Why don't they go hide their heads in shame? Is it possible to wither away from shame? They should. All day Thursday, we're told, Gaddafi has been trapped. Gaddafi has now been encircled by rebels in these buildings near the compound. And the hours go on, and the hours go on. And then it becomes, at least one son of Gaddafi has been trapped by the rebels. And the hours go on. And then later on, only pockets of resistance by the rebels remain in the entire city. What a tissue of lies. You can't believe any of this stuff. And the problem is the recurring human impulse of gullibility to believe it. Don't believe it. Stop it. Dr. Shakir and others had warned the Libyans about this Hollywood set. He even said, one day we're going to have heavy air attacks, the electricity is going to go off, the Libyan television is going to go off, and they're going to show you from the NATO television, this hurrah thing, and Al Jazeera, they're going to show you the capture of Green Square, but the Green Square is located thousands of miles away in Doha, Qatar, and that is exactly what they did. So the gay girl in Damascus School of Journalism goes on and on. Now, the other themes that we're getting. How about the Imelda Marcos shoe collection theme? Imelda Marcos, you'll remember, 25 years ago, the Anglo-American media went wild that Imelda Marcos had, 1,000 pairs of shoes. A clear Nuremberg crime, I'm sure. But now we're told, Gaddafi has a luxury RV. Gaddafi has a picture book of Condoleezza Rice. Gaddafi has a lavish lifestyle. He's a sybaritic guy. This is absolutely crazy. I've been in some of those villas that were bombed out. There's nothing special. I told you at the time. It looks like a kind of a upper middle class TV room. The room where he received foreign guests was quite modest. There's no gold, no diamonds built in. This is not Bokassa, that creature of the French from Central Africa some decades ago. Nothing like this. This is relatively restrained. Compares favorably to various Anglo-American bigwigs, right? You want to go? Let's go visit the homes of these Wall Street characters and see how they live. So the usual garbage. Now here we are in Washington D.C. Earth, wind, and fire threaten us. We've had an earthquake. We had a mild earthquake here on Tuesday. Cracks appeared in the Washington Monument. A bad omen. A bad omen when the cracks appear at the top of the Washington Monument. Wind. We've now got a hurricane bearing down on us, one of the most severe. And that will lead to huge losses, which will then be reflected in a collapse of insurance stocks next week. And that will be the fire. The fire will consume part of the New York Stock Exchange and related speculative enterprises. Are we dealing with divine retribution? Is this God's punishment for messing with Gaddafi? Well, time will tell. Always worth putting out these interesting questions. Now, we're told that the occupation is coming. We're told that United Arab Emirates, monarchist, reactionary forces are going to be brought in, 10, 20, 30,000 troops, to install a reign of terror in Tripoli, to go and root out the Gaddafi supporters, to hunt them down and kill them. Will advanced, progressive Libya, Arab socialism, number 57 on the World Human Development Index, beating out much of the world, beating out 120 or 130 countries, beating out Russia, beating out Ukraine, beating out Brazil, beating out everybody else in Africa, Nigeria, South Africa, beating them all. Will they accept the yoke of these monarchists from these horrendous feudal relics that the British have preserved out there in the Gulf? I can't imagine how they would. And we're also told now that the Al-Qaeda government, with the frontmen Jalil and Jabril, but with Hifter, the CIA heavy, the enforcer, slightly off the center of the stage, but still there in the shadows, keeping these other guys covered. They want to impose Sharia law. Sharia law. Now, what would that mean? Having been in Libya, I can tell you the society essentially looks like the Western world in many cases. The status of women is probably the most advanced anywhere in the Arab world. It was also fairly advanced in Iraq. I think Libya was always ahead of Iraq in these areas. So now we're supposed to have Sharia law and go backwards. The fate of women? Wasn't this the big story in Afghanistan, that women were being oppressed by Islamic fundamentalists? Well, now here's an example of an Al-Qaeda government that wants to bring Sharia law to Libya, which does not have it, and it's a secular state now. But with if the Benghazi Al-Qaeda people get their way, the beards, then this will turn into something I think quite retrograde from that point of view. The comparison, I think, arises with the Vandals, and by this I mean the Vandals coming out of Central Asia. Around 400 A.D., slightly ahead of Genghis Khan, and indeed pushed forward by Genghis Khan and his Huns, we had another rather unsavory group of people, rather destructive, the Vandals, and their name has become a word in English to in many other languages to give the idea of a barbarian who destroys civilization. NATO is now so politically bankrupt that it turns to Vandals. In other words, Al-Qaeda troops under European officers as the infantry, because they're too poor to afford infantry and politically incapable of motivating this kind of thing. We've now got the emerging Vandal terrorist kingdom of North Africa under Al-Qaeda auspices, and this will be Tunisia and Libya, and it will try to extend it to Algeria and try to extend into Egypt. The Vandals, the Al-Qaeda Vandal terrorist kingdom under the aegis of NATO and, of course, the International Monetary Fund. Notice that when the rebels got to Tripoli finally, the leading edge of the Al-Qaeda advance into Tripoli was Tarhouni, the finance minister, the banker's boy. He was there to reassure the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank. So it's Tarhouni who proclaims Al-Qaeda rule in Tripoli. I'm reminded of the time that guy Grassi from the New York Stock Exchange went into the jungles of Colombia to meet terrorists. This is the way the world works. Read Machiavelli. This is the essence of this kind of an operation. So the problem with the Vandals, though, is once they get control of North Africa, they take over Sicily, Corsica, Sardinia, and then they go and sack Rome. So get set for Al-Qaeda piracy in the Mediterranean, get set for invasions of some kind into southern Europe. And watch out, France, because you're there too. Back in a minute.